Hello everyone and welcome back to the Scots Scheme with Macalester College football coach Tony Jennison. The Scots Scheme is a weekly program that gives you, the fans, the opportunity to ask the Macalester coach questions about the Scots, football or sports in general, or just seek the coach's wisdom about life issues or whatever may be on your mind out there. This week we have an exciting program for you as the coach discusses last week's contest against Knox College. We learn his insights for this week about Ripon and what he expects out of them considering they're on quite the winning streak of their own. We also learned some important issues about what the coach sees as aspects about life that he'd like to discuss with us this week, including how to get your son more involved in getting the remote for you. So let's get right to the Scots Scheme. All right, so we want to welcome back Coach Jennison for this week. Coach, first of all, let's talk about early on in the season, you were discussing with us the fact that your team seemed to do really well in the first half, struggled a little bit towards the second half. Now that kind of the reverse is going on where teams are struggling against you in the second half, had some close games early on. How do you think there's been some keys for you that have turned the tide?
Well, I think a big thing is just us being more consistent. We're executing better offensively and defensively because, we're further into the season and our players understand our schemes a little bit better. I also think our conditioning is a little bit better, that it has been an emphasis for us since the first game of the season where we feel like we really lost the game in the second half and we weren't as conditioned as we needed to be. So I think just our consistency, our execution, we're getting better, but also I think our conditioning has played into that as well.
Last weekend, kind of a turn in the game was the goal line stand. So they have a third and goal at the 3, you stop them, fourth and goal at the 3, you stop them again, then you go on a 97-yard scoring drive. Talk us a little bit through those two defensive stand plays there.
They were huge because obviously if they had scored there, we would have went down 2 scores early in the game, 14-0. Or 13-0 at least, and it was critical because they were really kind of marching up and down the field on us. Now, they had some big plays, so it was just kind of little breakdowns here and there that contributed to some bigger runs and pass plays and, a couple missed tackles and whatnot. So we really weren't executing very well. We weren't playing very well. But the great part about it was that our defense, when it was crunch time, they stepped up and really got it done. And that's the sign of a good defense, a sign of a good team. When it is at that critical juncture of the game, they step up and make a play. And that's what our defense did. And it was a huge part in the game, no question about it.
On the 97-yard scoring drive, the first 4 plays, each one of them earned 15 yards. Did you feel like the offense was feeding off that big stand at that point?
You know what? It's something I hadn't thought about, but yeah, you're probably right. I've noticed around here that when our sidelines are alive, when there's more energy within the team, that we play better on the field. Now, I don't know if that's necessarily true or if it's just something we felt around here, but it does feel that way for our team. Ever since I've been here, really, that when our sideline's alive, when our one side of the ball is playing more confident and making things happen, it does seem to pick up the other side of the ball. So I hadn't thought about that to this point, but I think your point is valid that with that big stop defensively, it kind of got our offense going a little bit too. That drive was spectacular. It was really nice to see.
They take the lead, and then you get 2 huge interceptions that seem to kind of deflate Knox at that particular point. You've had 2 successive weeks of great defensive play out of you. What do you think has been some of the keys that you've seen?
In terms of our defensive play?
Yes.
Again, I think it's just getting more comfortable into our schemes. Instead of, early in the season, we're 2 or 3 weeks in, we had our bye week, so we got an extra week in there, and now we've got 4 games in. So I think it's getting more comfortable with our schemes. We are playing a number of young guys on defense, and it's common to make first-year mistakes or first-time starting mistakes out there, when you do have your first game experience. So I really believe it's the young men in our program getting more comfortable with their assignments and whatnot. And, I also think that our defensive staff does a really good job. Coach Mullenbach and the other coaches that work with him are really good coaches, and they have high expectations of the young men in our program and to work really hard to put them in good positions and to teach them the techniques that are going to help them make plays. So Yeah, it has been fun to watch our defense, and they stepped up last week. It didn't start off so well because Knox was really moving the ball on us, and but with that defensive stop, it definitely kind of changed the game.
It's pretty impressive considering the fact that you've had to have so many people fill in. You've had a lot of key injuries. So I'm talking about that defensive scheme and how you've really tried to get the guys to buy into that, and they've become more comfortable with it. That's got to be quite a challenge to work with guys who weren't intended to start and they're now having to kind of fill in. Some guys weren't even playing defense for you to begin with.
That's true. So it has been a challenge. Our injury situation has not been very good this year. We just haven't been very lucky with it. And it seems as though when one person comes back and is starting to get healthy, then we lose someone else. So we have moved people around a little bit. Ethan Carpenter has really stepped up for our defense. He moved over from offense. He's actually playing on both sides of the ball now, which is, I told him the first week he did this that he'll be an answer to a trivia question one day, because he's still playing some at running back, and he's continuing to learn the linebacker position. Has really done a nice job. It's amazing that he's actually on the field contributing when he really has only played the position, for a couple weeks now. And Elliot Tannen has done a really nice job moving from outside linebacker to inside linebacker, and he's really played at a high level in both the games that he's played at that position. In fact, he made the first big interception last week, and that really I thought helped propel our team to a victory, because at that point Knox had been driving on us, and I believe it was a tie game at that point. And then Elliott makes the great play, tips the ball up. He's coming on a blitz, and the quarterback throws it, and he tips the ball up and catches it, and then runs down to the 5-yard line, and puts our offense in a really good situation to score and get on the board. So he's really stood out as well. So those two really specifically come to mind.
I wanted to ask, the last 2 weeks you've gotten out to big leads, which has given you the opportunity to play a lot of your team. I think pretty much everybody's played over the last 2 weeks for you. Is there a situation that you like that because it gives you an opportunity to look at your depth, or is it kind of hard because you're pulling out some of your starters, which kind of gets you out of rhythm, do you think?
I'm not sure about that. I think there's probably an argument for both. Certainly from my standpoint, I'd like to keep my hair, and the less stressful the games are, I think it helps me out a little bit. So I like those big leads. I would prefer that we can do that as much as possible. Sometimes it's not always easy as just saying it, though. It's a little bit harder to get it done, but I think there's value probably in both, but I do, and I really enjoy getting to see everyone play and everyone contribute. And it was great to see late in the game last week, freshman Patrick Haley from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, stripped a ball out from one of Knox's running back's hands, or his quarterback's hands, whoever was running the ball. And Jed Buckles, a freshman from McFarland, Wisconsin, jumped on it. So it was really great to see that two young guys having unique success, and they've put in a lot of hard work this year, but aren't playing a whole lot of downs when the game is really tight. So it's really fun to see guys like that get in there and then make something happen and have success when they do have that opportunity.
The one nice advantage I would think at this point about having the bigger leads, Sandy Stoll hurt early on in the year, has slowly worked himself back in, but you haven't had to use him a lot in these last two games. So that's kind of keeping him a lot fresher. I would think that's kind of a benefit that you're looking for down the stretch.
No question about it. We want to keep Zandy healthy because he's a great football player. Not only is he a great running back, but he's a great blocker, and he's a great leader too. He brings so much to our team. He has the respect of everybody on our team, and we definitely want to keep him fresh. The good part about it is we've got some backs behind him that are pretty good as well, and we don't feel there's much of a drop-off there, if any. And I mentioned Ethan Carpenter before, who's been an important player for us for a number of years now. But Jacob Jones really invigorated everybody last week with a very physical 45-yard run or thereabouts, and Jeremy Steffen, a freshman, has done a nice job as well. So yes, I think keeping Zandy fresh is important for us. We're certainly aware of that, and hopefully again we can have those big leads where that can continue.
This week you take on Ripon, who's been surprisingly beat St. Scholastica, who won the UMAC last year, beat Illinois College, who was played you guys in the conference championship game last season. A greatly improved team for sure. So, what's your assessment of them at this point?
Quite honestly, I'm not surprised, Rob. Ripon is a really good football team, and they pose a lot of problems because who they are offensively and defensively. Offensively, they run a triple option attack, and you basically have to change your whole defense to accommodate for that. And on defense, they run a scheme that they're the only team that we're going to see all year that runs something like they do. So it's really a challenge for us as coaches because basically game plans that you've employed in the past really don't mean anything. So it's certainly a longer week in terms of preparation and film work and getting ready for practice so that we're in a position to put our young men in good positions to have success on Saturday. But I'm not surprised at all with their success. They're really difficult to prepare for what they do, and they have good athletes. I mean, they've got a roster that's about the same size as ours, about 75 or whatnot, and they have talent there. So I'm not surprised to see what they're doing. In fact, I've always picked them pretty high to finish in the North just because what I see on film scares me. And I know that we'll have to get our best effort to win. And honestly, last year, that game could have gone either way. We won by 8 points, but it was back and forth the whole game. And there were times where it felt like, we were really struggling with them. And there's times that, we felt good too. But, we had some really big plays last year go our way. We had some guys have really great individual performances and people step up I think of Connor Fleming's interception last year that was critical, and Reed Callahan's stop on 4th down near the goal line. And it was kind of Sampson's big coming out party last year where he really had control of the offense and was really moving the chains well. We had that 24-play drive in the second quarter that took up like 14 minutes of the second quarter to keep their offense off the field. Those were all really unique things, and for us to win this football game, we're going to need to have similar types of stories because they are a very good football team. I think they're the biggest challenge that we've faced up to this point.
I think I asked you this exact same question last year before the Ripon game, so we'll ask it again. You're facing a team because of the triple option that's so different than what your defense is expecting or has been seeing so far. So how do you prepare your team for a situation like that?
It's just try to get as much work in as you can. Try to watch as much film as you can, much video. You try to get as many reps in at practice, try to educate our players about it. But it's really hard because, again, we have to change completely who we are, and that takes time. So I'm not sure I have a great explanation for how you do that. You just try to do your best given the allotted time that you have, which is not much. We want to be sensitive to the young men in our program and their academic needs, and making sure that they have time to be a student and have success as a student, and God forbid they have a social life in college too. So we want to be sensitive with their time. So we just try to make use of every opportunity we have with them, meeting time or on the field, to try to get them more information, more reps, so that they're in a position to know what their assignments are on Saturday.
Ripon reminds me a lot of your team from last season, and that all 4 of their games have been within a touchdown. Mm-hmm. I think 3 of them within 3 points, as a matter of fact. Looking at that, is there something that you feel that you need to do to kind of counteract their ability to win those close games right now?
I really don't think of it in terms of that. I just think of it in terms of our execution and doing our very best at every opportunity, making sure we're preparing ourselves in terms of the practices, our meetings, and doing our best. I can't control what the score is going to be or anything like that. Maybe part of that is educating our players too, that Ripon is a really good football team, and it's going to be a real big challenge for us. And if we don't play well, it might get ugly. But I think the young men in our program are smart enough to know that. I think they know that, based on the way the game went last year, that they pose a big threat for us, and it will be a big challenge for us. So beyond communicating and doing our very best at practice, I'm not really sure what we do to prepare our team, but hopefully it's just being honest and working hard.
Our fan questions for this week begin with Tom from St. Paul, who asks, do you find that students athletes have changed from when you first started coaching?
I'm not sure about that. I don't think so. I think people are people, and they're still looking for a great experience, and they want to be treated well. So I'm not really sure about that. Also my role has changed. When I first started coaching, I wasn't a head coach, so I didn't deal with all the situations that I deal with now. So maybe in 10 years, I might have better insight as to that question, having been a head coach for longer. But I don't think so. I think, I worked with really great young men, whether it was at La Crosse or Eau Claire or Marietta, and I worked with really great young men here at Macalester as well. And oftentimes, or usually, they all care a lot about football. And so I think that, again, they're just looking to have a great experience and to be given a shot and to be treated with respect. So I don't know. I wouldn't say that they've changed a whole lot, at least from my perspective. But again, maybe I'll have a different perspective 10 years from now.
Gene from Minneapolis would like to know, do you have a favorite moment as a player?
Favorite moment as a player? Boy, that is tough. I don't have one moment that sticks out in my mind. I guess if I were to think back to my college career, is my one career interception where I got tackled from behind at about the 3-yard line going into score. So that's somewhat a bittersweet memory, because it would have been nice to get a touchdown on that, but obviously I wasn't fast enough, or maybe it was my teammates didn't block back well enough. I don't think that was the case. It was probably the former rather than the latter, but it's hard for me. I think more about the relationships and the people and the times that I had than a specific moment or play or anything or win. I was fortunate to be a part of 4 conference championship teams in college and 2 national championships teams, but I don't really think about those moments very often. You think more again about the journey and the people you met along the way. So I'm not sure I could pick out one moment. There's a lot of them that I remember, and some more favorably than others. Sorry, Gene.
Henry from St. Paul would like to know if you watch baseball, and if so, do you have a World Series favorite?
You know what? I don't watch baseball because I don't have cable television, so I don't watch baseball. But I really love baseball. It was my passion growing up, and kind of switched over to football in my high school career, because my high school football experience was so meaningful to me and so rewarding that I became more passionate about football at that time, and that's what I decided to do in college, and what led me to coaching football. But I am very passionate about baseball. I enjoy the Minnesota Twins and following them and reading books on their history and stuff like that. But in terms of right now, I'm in the middle of football season, so I don't know a whole lot what's going on. If I were to pick anybody, I'd probably pick the Cardinals right now.
Our next question is, there seems to be so many negative things going on in the world these days: shootings, bombings, refugees. Give us some good news, Coach.
Some good news, huh? Good news that the Fighting Scots are working hard this week. We had a good week of practice. We switched our schedule around a little bit to allow our players to get a little bit more rest earlier in the week, because we knew it's going to be a physical week, and we needed some meeting time because of all the adjustments we needed to make to our defense and what their defense does. So the good news is the Fighting Scots are working really hard, and we're excited for our game on Saturday, 1 o'clock. Come on out.
Our last question for you, which may be my favorite question of all time. Frustrated dad points out, my kid will run 90 feet to first base as hard as he can. He will run 100 yards barreling over 3 defenders to reach the end zone. He will run a mile on a scorching hot day in 5 minutes. Why can't I get him to get up and go 5 feet to get me the remote?
That's a good question. Honestly, I would say because you're allowing him not to get the remote. There's a line in coaching that says, as coaches, either you're coaching them to do it a certain way or you're allowing it to happen. So if it was really important for me, for my young son to get our remote, then I would make sure that I'm not allowing that to happen, that he ignores me for that. So that's a little coaching sidebar with again another line from the coaching profession. So I don't know if it's really relevant here, but I'm not sure what to tell you other than that if it's important to you, then please don't allow it to happen.
Thanks for joining us this week, Coach.
Thank you, Rob. Appreciate it.
We want to thank Coach Jennison for joining us on the Scots Scheme this week. If you have your own questions you'd like to ask the coach, please send them to us at Tony Jennison at minorleaguesportsreport.com. That's Tony Jennison at minorleaguesportsreport.com. Please have your questions to us by Tuesday at noon so we can give the Macalester coach a day to review those before we record the show Wednesday afternoon. We hope you enjoyed this week's program. We look forward to seeing you next week. I'm Rob Paneer, the managing editor of the Minor League Sports Report, and we'll see you next week on the Scots Scheme.